Good evening, everybody. Happy leap year to you all. I hope you are doing all, as my good friend Warren Hewitt would say, marvelously well. Now, he does it with this glorious English accent, which I cannot do. But yes, I hope everybody is having a marvelous time this week so far. So far, so good for me. It has been, thankfully, nice and chilled. Nice and quiet, nice and relaxed, and it's been nice to have my wife home from work for today and tomorrow. It's really cool. But she is working the weekend, so I will have the kids to myself for the weekend, which will be fun. So there you go. That's a little bit of an insight into my family life for you. I don't really talk about my family very much, but anyway. I hope everybody is doing well and has had a good week so far. Welcome to Songwriting Simplified with me, Jonny Lipsham, here at jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk here in Scotland. And everybody by now should know what Scotland is, that Scotland is the capital of the universe, the multiverse, the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth dimensions as well. So there you go. Scotland dominates everything. Or at least it should. Anyway, I know. And I'm not a nationalist. For those of you that are wondering, is this Jonny guy kind of this weird Scottish nationalist? No, I'm not. But I like mocking nationalism in all its forms, especially the nationalism we have here in Scotland, because it is well worth the mockery. So anyway, that's kind of what I do. Let's go see who we have here and who was first in the door. And it looks like it was Billy Morgan who has retained his premier spot. I'm actually just going to double check that and make sure. Yes, it looks like it is Billy. With Tony Stringert, which is an unusual second place, but it is a very cool second place. And Boris Dancy is here as well. Ron Figura is here. Boris has the first question of the night. Ron Figura is, as I said, he's here. Steve Wilson is here. Mike Johnson over in the Philippines is here. And I'm kind of anticipating that at some point I will be saying that on a kind of permanent basis. I'm kind of anticipating that. And we got my friend Spin 180, which is a fantastic channel name, by the way. I like that very much. And he's over in the Mississippi. Wow, I couldn't even say that, and I've not had a drink today. Mississippi Gulf Coast. There you go, Mississippi Gulf Coast. That's awesome. And of course, Billy Morgan is in Gonzales, Louisiana, and we got a Rose Boring Alice here as well. And Daryl Harrison is here, and we've got Simok Enge. And we've got, who else do we have? We got Kyle Trajusiak, who is ordering, he says, Italian food, which is cool. He's gone for penne. He says he went for penne vodka with chicken and broccoli. That sounds interesting. There we go. So, I think we have reached the bottom here, and Bobby Booth is here, so we can start now. Now that Bobby is in the room, we can start. We got 14 people here already. We got 10 likes already, which is awesome. Now, remember, I like to have like and viewer parity. So if we could kind of keep that all through the show, that would be awesome. Number of people here, number of likes being the same or as close to the same as possible. That would be awesome. If you are new here, welcome. I'm glad you're here. I don't think many of you are new, but if you are, and if you are watching the replay, welcome to you as well. And I just want to say, if you have not hit that subscribe button, please do. We are perilously close to tipping over into 5,400 subscribers. I would like to go well beyond 5,400, and I'm aiming for 6,000 very soon. I want to get to 6,000 as soon as possible, and want to get to 10,000. 10,000 is kind of like the big milestone for me personally, because then we've crossed over from 4 figures into 5 figures, and that's kind of, although YouTube doesn't give you a play button for 5 figures, certainly your channel gets a bit more attention. So I would like that. So if you guys could help me out, that would be tremendous. So please subscribe, please like, please share. It helps me out massively, and you have no idea how much it helps me. I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you very much. Don Oliver is here as well. I don't know if I mentioned you, Don, but I am doing so now. Right, let's get to the question that we're going to start with this evening. And then we're going to move into melody writing mode. Now, last week we looked at the arc of a melody, and we used Notion to do that. And I kind of broke down the idea of a concept of a melody and, this massive giant thing, write a melody. That's kind of a huge kind of concept to wrap your mind around. For some of you, that's really easy. You just go, great, I can just start humming this thing and I start writing it, and there we go. But for others of you, writing a melody is really abstract, and you tend to write something that meanders a wee bit. Well, hopefully last week's show has helped you a lot by basically going, okay, we want an ascending phrase and a descending phrase to answer the ascending phrase. And then let's do another one. Ascending phrase, different one this time, descending phrase. And then that's kind of like your kind of little A section right there. And then a contrasting B section. Use the same concept, rising and descending. Or you can do it the other way around, descending, rising. Whichever you want, really. And then repeat that A section. So you kind of got an A-A-B-A form for your verse, if you like. And that will help you get this whole idea of an abstract concept like melody into something that is easily into little two-measure, two-bar, bite-sized chunks. One little phrase going up, one little phrase going down, another little phrase going up. And, stick to the notes from the chords and then next door neighbor notes. So that's what we're going to look at tonight, is we're going to look at how to actually construct this thing. Because I started doing something last week with just the C major pentatonic scale, which is great. Using a scale like the C major pentatonic scale or any other major pentatonic scale, depending upon what key you're in, is really, really useful, really helpful. And it means that, yes, you are limited, but you can guarantee that every single one of those notes is going to fit all of the chord changes that you're going to use, especially if you stick to kind of, 1-6-2-5 or 1-3-6-2-5 and, variations thereof, and 1-4-5 in terms of chords. Then, those pentatonic patterns are going to fit every one of those chords. So you can guarantee that your melody notes are going to work every time. So we're going to look at using the notes of a chord to make a melody, and then using next door neighbor notes to get from one of those to the next one. So that's tonight, okay? So hold on to that thought. Hold on to that idea. We're going to get to Boris's question first because it's a follow-up from the other week, and I want to help him with this. So Boris says, now we've moved to the key of G major from E minor, do I keep the same progression of 2-5-1? Depends where you're going. It always depends where you're going. All right? So if you're going to do a 2-5-1, then you're doing a 2-5-1 to get from one place to another, from one key to another. All right? If you imagine, I don't have my keys on me, but if you imagine that you're going from, let's say you've got a hotel corridor and you are the key master, and you need to be able to check each room and make sure, guests have moved out and the rooms are all ready for new guests. So let's say you've got 12 rooms on this one corridor, and it's the major corridor. And then across the way, you've got another corridor that's the minor corridor. And, there are 12 rooms there. Good thing is, you can hop across from this corridor to this corridor because, they kind of all adjoin, right? So this kind of imagery breaks down just a wee bit with reality because rooms don't adjoin like that in reality. But just kind of bear with me with this. So what does the 2-5-1 do? It's like the key that unlocks the room. So if you want to go from the G major room to the C major room, then you need to use the 251 that opens the C major room to get in it. Okay? And then you do that for any other key. So if you're in G major, and you're wanting to get to C major, you need to do chord 2, chord 5 to chord 1 in C major, because that is what unlocks C major. So there we go. And that's what does it. So now we're in the C major room. Let's say we want to go to E major. So 251 in E. So that's basically F sharp minor, D7, E. Okay, because F sharp minor is chord 2 of E, B is chord 5 to 1. Okay, so that's how 251s work. They unlock the different rooms. They unlock the next key that you're wanting to go to. And you can use a 251 to reinforce that you're in a particular key. So, you know, if you're in the key of G, let's go back there. All right, so we're in G. I'm doing this little 251 to make sure everyone knows we're in G major. A little flat 9 in there just for fun. Tritonal sub. All of that does is just confirm that you're in G major, right? So, but you can do that. So let's say you were in E minor before. And let's say we're doing something that's a little bit Phil Collinsy, right? So. Want to get to G major. Now, seeing as we've landed on this kind of D over E chord, we can just shift this bass note up to the F sharp and get the third of the D like this. Now we're in G because I've left out the chord 5, the chord 2, and just gone straight to chord 5. So you don't have to use a 2. You can just do a 5-1. All right? Whoops. And now I've gone right back. And I did that little minor 2-5-1 there just to confirm that we're in E minor. F sharp half diminished, B7 flat 9. Now I'm back in G major. Back in E minor. And now I'm in C major because that's just where my fingers wandered to. Back in G major because I did a D over F sharp and that took me back to G major. So you don't have to do a 2-5-1, but a 2-5-1 makes your movement from one key to another even stronger. So that everybody is, you know, your listener is very clear about where you're going. Now, if you don't want your listener to be clear about where they're going, you want to deceive your listener and make them think that they haven't changed key at all, so your change of key is more subtle, then yes, things like doing a chord 5 with the third of the chord in the bass is really nice and subtle. You know, so let's say we're going to a distant key. So we're in G major, but we're going to go to E flat major. Let's just say our chorus is in E flat major because our vocalist has kind of a bit of a slightly limited range and couldn't sing the chorus in G. So we're going to put the chorus into E flat major, And trust me, I've been in this situation where that has happened. Okay, so I've needed to do this. So, G major. Move the mic this way a little bit. There's my 251 confirming we are in G major. Now I want to go to E flat. And this is my chorus, it's over this pedal. Now I'm back in G major. And basically what I did there was I went... And that took me back to G major. And then I did a little tritonal substitution. I used the A flat 7 with the flat 5 to substitute as a D7, just to make it even, you know, that little 2-5 thing a little bit more colorful and a little bit more subtle. So you can do tritonal substitutions as well that make it, you know, make the process of going from one key to another even more subtle. So, you know, I could, for example, going back to that E flat, my tritonal substitution for chord 5 is going to be E7. So I'm going to need to use that. So I'm going to need to do a... I'm going to need to do something akin to that. So... Right, so F minor, E flat 7, sharp 5 flat 9, leads quite nicely, the voice leading to E flat. So let's stick that into some context. Very subtly back in G major again. So you can definitely kind of do things to disguise what your intention is, if you so choose. So it's kind of up to you there, Boris, what you might want to do with that. Let's see, what else do we have? W5 family here, which is awesome. Welcome, guys. Good to see you. Glad you're here. United Effects says C major pentatonic has no B and no F, so any diatonic chord from the keys of C major, G major, and F major could support a melody made from the notes of the C major pentatonic. Correct. That is absolutely right. So that works extremely well. Let's see, what else do we have here? Okay, so, all right, so let's get over to the whole idea of melody. And so let's do something with melody where we are using just chord notes. See if I can remember, was it this one? No, it's not that one. Sorry, I'm just trying to find the score that we used last time. That's not it either. This one? Nope. I forgot to title it. Ah, here it is. Melody writing. Here we go. All right, so let's go over to the screen and put me in the corner down there. So this is the piece of melody that we had last week. Now, it sounds very nice, but it's a little bit hymn-like, which might be what you're going for. Hymn writing might be your thing, in which case this is going to suit you down to the ground. This is going to be ideal for you. However, let's make this a little bit more interesting. Now, do we have some chord tones here? Yes, we do. We have a C, we have an E, and we have a G, which are the chord tones of C major triad. 1, 3, 5. So that is basically the C major chord spelled out, but we've got this D that's going in between. What is this D here? Well, this is what we call a passing note, because it's passing between the C and the E. If we were to imagine that this is a street, okay, that the stave here is a street with houses, okay? The important houses are the chord tone houses. So we got we got number 1, number 3, and number 5 on our street, okay? And this here, you could say is number 2, which it is. It is number 2. But what we're going to do is we want to go from number 1 and we want to go to number 3. So what we are doing here is, instead of going 1 and then walking up the street to number 3 and knocking on the door and saying, hey, have you got a bag of sugar because I've run out? We're not doing that. What we're doing is we're going, I'm going to go by the back door. Instead, I'm going to hop the fence and go by the back door, because it's easier than walking out the front door, walking around, going up their driveway and knocking on the door. This is going to be quicker, and it's going to be maybe a little bit smoother. So what we do here is we use the fence of the house, the number 2 house, to get to number 3. So that's what these first 3 notes of the melody do. And then we're missing out number 4 and we're going straight to number 5. Why? Because this piece is built using the pentatonic scale, which has no number 4 and has no number 7. Those houses have been knocked down, okay, for this example. So that's what we have here. So that's what this is here. This is a little passing tone. Let's go back to the beginning here and let's just play these first 4 notes. Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3, then 5, going up to the A, which is the 3rd of the F major chord. Now, we've got this note here. This is the number 5 in our house. This is number 6. This is number 5 in our street, rather, because we're in the key of C major. But this also is the 3rd of the F major chord. So if I play an F major chord, F is 1, A is 3, C is 5. That makes an F major chord, okay? So that's the note that we landed on here, which is why it sounds really very pleasant. But this note here is the 2nd degree of F, okay? So if we have 1, 3, and 5, we've got, so we would have, let's see if I can just stick this melody on the top here. That's the sound we've got. So we've got this little bit of tension here. Okay? So this is another important point of melody writing, is tension and release. We've got some tension here because we've got the second here, and we've got the second of this chord here. So we've got a little bit of tension happening already, but it's very carefully controlled, what I call consonant, easy tension. You know, if we were to set a degree of spiciness for music, you know, that's kind of, it's not even touching the sides. This is spice that is very, very easy on the palate, very mundane. Now, going through this little melody writing series, we will get into some more tricky, more spicy stuff. If you're into spice, this is going to, you know, what we get into going down the road is going to be cool. You're going to enjoy it. So, so that's what we got here. So when we're talking about passing notes, this is what I'm talking about, this D to the E thing. Now, let's take a look at this little line here. We've got an A, a G, an E, and a D going down to the C. So this is a descending phrase resolving on number one, the tonic, the home, the start of the street, the most important house on the street. Okay, so that's what we have here. So what might I do to make this little line a little bit more interesting? Well, what I can do is I can turn this note into an eighth note. So if I select this note and turn it into an eighth note, and now we're missing a note here, which doesn't quite add up. So I'm going to grab an eighth note. Why is this not going to write in for me? Okay. There we go. Select that note. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a note between this one and this one. So now we've got an F as a passing note. So let's have a listen to this little phrase. Now I've added that extra note. So we've got a nice little descending phrase, but between the G and the E that we had before, we're doing the reverse of what we did here. Here we used the fence to hop over to E. This time we're using the fence to go from number 5 down to number 3. Okay? And it also makes the rhythm a little bit faster, a little bit more interesting. So if I was to play this whole little line here. Now, for some of you, this is going to be really, really basic stuff, and you kind of already do this kind of thing instinctively. So why am I kind of doing this bare bones basics? Trust me, we are going to get onto some more complex melody writing that you can do using blues scales and that kind of thing, and modes and exotic scales like we did for the Halloween challenge, where we did that whole Locrian flat 6 scale, which was really, really fun. I had so much fun doing that piece, using that really exotic scale that that Rich Cresswell chose for us to do. It was so much fun. Had such a lot of fun making that. So, but in order to get to that point, this is going to be useful because you can take these tools that you learn here about passing notes and you can use them in much more advanced compositional techniques, much more advanced melody writing, and even in improvisation. Okay? Passing notes are great, especially for improvisation. So, if we were to stay strictly diatonic with this phrase, it kind of sounds okay, but let's say we want to make it a little bit more interesting again. Well, see, we've got a D here. We can do a B as a passing note to the C here, just to kind of make this rhythm a little bit more interesting again. So let's select this note and let's make it an 8th note. And then let's unselect that. Come on. There we go. Right, let's unselect that note. Let's grab an 8th note and we will stick in a B, which is just below the C. And then we will go back to the beginning and play this melody in context. Now that's really low for a flute to get down to. So the key of C major is maybe not that great for flute, to be honest, but it kind of works. So that's a little bit on the low side, which is why it sounds a little bit dark. Flute's going to struggle to play that B. So this is where it might be a little bit more effective. If I was to do a B going into this top C here, this is the highest note that we've got in our melody so far. Aurora says, haven't used passing notes since high school. Yeah, passing notes are fantastic. Just curious, would C to D also be a major second interval if played simultaneously? Yes, it would. It would. Yeah, so if I play a C and a D, that's the interval of a major second. Why? Because we've got the root and the next door note, which is a major second. Now, a minor second would sound like this. So there's major, there's minor. And you can't actually do a diminished second. Not possible. That is a theoretical interval. Okay? Mike Johnson says, thought passing notes would have been grade school, but I get it. Yeah, passing notes are really quite basic. But, again, I'm just going to dot in a few passing notes here to see if we can jazz up this melody without making it sound ridiculous. Because this is kind of nice, down-home, folksy little tune. We don't want to do too much to it. So let's turn that into an eighth note as well. And then we'll click away to deselect. We'll grab our eighth note. And we're going to stick in a B there for this line here. Let's play this. Now, what if we wanted to make this even more interesting? Let's say we turn this, now we're really getting funky with our rhythms. Let's turn this note here into not a quarter note, but a dotted quarter note. And then we're going to click away there because we're going to stick in a passing note going from the B down to the A, and it's going to be an eighth note. Now, this melody is starting to cook a little bit. Now, what if we stuck in here, because we've got an E going down to a D. Should we do some chromatics? Why not? Might work on this, it might not, but this is where you learn what works and what doesn't. So let's make that an eighth note. We'll click away. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go for an E flat here, going down to the G, our first non-diatonic chromatic note. Let's give it a try. Now, I'll show you how to do this in Notion because it's very, very cool. So we want to make this an E flat. So there we go. I drag slightly to the left and that creates the flat. All right, so let's play this whole line from here and see if this E flat works or not. It might not work. It actually does. It works. Now, we could totally jazz up this entire little line here and throw in all sorts of chromatic passing tones, because that one worked really well. So we got a G going to an A. Could we do a G sharp? That would make that into a major 7. I think not. But we could certainly stick in an F sharp here into this G, because that G really clashes with the F sharp on that D7 chord. You've got the F sharp and the G together there, so it kind of doesn't entirely work. But we could certainly stick in, let's make this one an 8th note as well, and then we will click away, and then we'll grab another 8th note, and I'm gonna go with a G flat here, or an F sharp. There we go. So you drag left to make a flat, you drag right to get a sharp. All right, so let's check that out now. Yeah, that kind of works, kind of doesn't work. It might work a little bit better if we have like a G flat here, or maybe a because we got a G, an A, an F sharp. Maybe if we make that a G sharp, let's have a G sharp in there. So let's turn that into an 8th note as well. And that didn't work. Let's undo that. I don't know why that happened. I'm gonna make that an 8th note. That's totally messed that up. Okay, let's just select an 8th note and drop it in here. So let's make this, what did I say I was going to do? A G sharp? There we go. And then what we'll do is we'll select this one and make that one an 8th note. There we go. Let's see what happens to this line now. It might be absolutely crap, but let's try it. Yeah, it's getting a little bit more chromatic, a little bit spicier now. But the point here is this is kind of how you can do it. Does it work for this piece? No, it doesn't. This piece sounds best with diatonic passing notes rather than lots of chromatic passing notes. Okay? That's what these are. These notes that don't belong to the key, the G sharp, the F sharp, the E flat, these are chromatic passing notes. They don't belong to the key of C major. They don't belong to the scale. These are the rooftops of the houses, guys, okay? Going back to our houses metaphor earlier on the street. So if you imagine that these sharps and flats and stuff, these chromatic tones, they are passing notes for sure. But instead of using the fence, this time we've gone up onto the roof and we've like done a little slide from one roof to the next. If we imagine that all of these houses are like a terrace and they're all joined together, so you can basically go on the roof from one house and you can run down one and up onto the next, right? So that's kind of what we're doing here. We're using the rooftops to get between the houses instead of hopping over the fence, which is what we were doing with these more diatonic-y passing notes. These more diatonic basically means belongs to the scale. That's what diatonic means. I know it's a big word, but that's what diatonic means. It just means notes that belong to the scale. Okay? Chromatic, colors. That's what it comes from chroma, the Greek word, right? I think it's Greek. It might be Latin. Could be wrong. But yes, it comes from chroma, meaning to color. So that's why we call them chromatic. They are colored notes. They don't belong to the scale. So you got scale tones and chord tones that are diatonic, and you have non-scale tones, non-chord tones that are chromatic. And you can have those work. In this particular case, the diatonic ones work really nicely. So if I go back here, that works really nicely, as does this little phrase here. That works lovely. But when we get to this, we've probably overdone it with the chromatic tones. We probably don't need these, I would suggest. So I could just totally just go and delete that and then turn that back into a quarter note. And then let's get rid of that one. And let's turn that back into a quarter note. And I'll keep the one little passing note there, the one little chromatic tone there. I think that one is the only one that works out of what we did. Everything else is nicely diatonic, but this one, you know, it kind of just adds one little splash of color. And then, you know, you can end in a different way to what we've done there. You know, that's kind of a nice little simple ending. But because this is the end of the song, you could, you know, make this go up instead. Just so that everybody knows this is the end of your song. So, you know, that could go up as well. And we could just adjust the line ever so slightly. And it's still diatonic, and we're using a B as a diatonic passing note into the C here. And we've got next door notes here, so the G is a passing note between this A. So that gives it a nice sense of completion. All right, so let's play the whole thing from the beginning. And there we have it. So I'm just reading what you guys are saying in the chat here. So I can catch up. Anybody got any questions about passing tones and when to use them, when not to use them? My personal opinion with passing notes like this, whether they are chord tones, going from one chord tone to the next, like we did in the start there, you know, where we go. Okay, so we got the C going, the D is the passing note going into the E. Passing notes can really help make a melody sound more interesting. And so you can start with a nice simple quarter note thing, which is what we started with. We started with something that was very regimented, on the beat, very, very simple. Quite oftentimes, this is a good way to get into melody writing. Start with something simple that just uses just the notes of the chord for each measure, right? So if you're using a C major chord, just go C, E, G. And then on the F major chord, F, A, C, just do that. That's perfectly legitimate. And then what you can do is you can start to put in some passing notes between one note and the next note to connect those chord tones together. And before you know it, you're writing melody. So the cool thing with these passing notes is they decorate the melody. It's like, okay, the first thing we've done is we've started last week with these quarter notes and half notes that make the bare bones foundation of the melody, okay? And then what we've done tonight is we've gone, okay, let's start putting in some walls. Let's start building out some of the rooms in this house. So that's kind of what we've done with these passing notes, is just add a little bit of decoration to our existing quarter notes and also make the melody a little bit more interesting and a bit more engaging for the listener. Because that's the important thing. Keep the listener engaged. That's one of the reasons why we've got a little chromatic passing tone here, because it doesn't appear anywhere else in this whole tune. There are no other chromatic notes apart from this E flat here. This E flat just happens to work really nicely on this D7 chord because we've got a 9, then it's a D7 chord, so we've got the 9th, flat 9th going to the D, which is the 5th of the G7 chord. So it works really nicely, going between the E, the target note is the D, and we're just using this little E flat as a passing note, okay? Now, this could also be called a chromatic enclosure because it's semitonal. So we're going E, E flat, D. So it's a little chromatic enclosure between the E and the D. So there's our starting note, there's the target note, we got a little chromatic passing note, which creates this little enclosure. Chromatic enclosures are great for improvising. They connect notes, one note to another, and we can get into improvising probably later towards the beginning of the summertime. I want to get into improvising on chord changes. So using the chord notes and diatonic scales like pentatonic scales, what you learn for melody writing, you can apply to improvising as well. So I want to get into kind of giving you guys tools for improvising, which is a big part of songwriting, by the way. Not to be ignored when you're writing a song. Not that you necessarily want to hand over a written out improvisation for your saxophone player, but you might want to give them some ideas. Like maybe you're going, I want to, in my head, this is what I'm hearing for the saxophone solo. And you can give them some like key phrases that you've just been thinking of round in your head. Hey, it'd be great if you could just drop this little phrase in here and there. And, that's going to help the saxophone player out ultimately because, they want to play a solo that is going to work, is going to complement your song. So we will definitely cover some bare bones basics, since this is Songwriting Simplified. Some bare bones basics on improvising using pentatonic scales, blues scales, diatonic major scales and modes, and how you can use little, passing notes and chromatic enclosures with those as well, because they're fun. All right. Neil says very final notes. You could even do a D, D flat, C, all eighth notes. Yes, I could. I could do a little descending chromatic enclosure. You're quite right. Elusive 1970 says, if there's no chord tone in the first beat of bars 1 and 3, can you throw a chord tone in later in the bar? You can, but chord tones tend to work best when they are on the strong beats of the bar, with passing notes on the weaker beats. So generally speaking, in music, we would, particularly Western music, not necessarily in Eastern music, but certainly Western music, and jazz, blues, rock, pop, and folk music and hymnal music all have their roots in Western music. So in Western music, beats 1 and 3 tend to be the stronger beats, and beats 2 and 4 in a 4/4 measure tend to be the weaker beats. So you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, obviously, when you get into jazz and to blues and to rock, or into funk and things like that, then the weak beats become the strong beats. So beats 2 and 4 become more emphasized than beats 1 and 3. But for the most part, chord tones should be on beats 1 and 3, and passing notes on 2 and 4, and kind of like other notation values in between. So 8th notes, 16th notes, triplets, whatever you're going to do. But chord tones really should be on the strong beats. So, for example, you don't have to start a measure on the root, which is what we've done here. We've just done this to establish that this is the key of C major, and that's why we've resolved on the key of on the middle C here as well. But as you look on measure 2 here, we're on the 3rd of the chord, going to the 2nd of the chord. This is kind of like a hanging passing note, if you like. It doesn't go anywhere, and in fact, it resolves back to this A here, which is the 5th of the D minor 7 chord. Now we got the G, F, and E This is a descending scale pattern heading towards C. So this is like a long series of passing notes aiming for C. It's a diatonic, effectively a diatonic enclosure leading towards C. So we've got G, F as passing note, E, D, B passing note into C. I mean, that's kind of how I showed you how to write it. You know, the F was a passing note into the E. On this G7 chord, this is the 13th of the chord, and then we got the 5, and then we got the 3rd leading to the 1 here. So chord tones need to be on, well, they don't need, it's not like a hard and fast rule that says chord tones must only be on strong beats. You can put chord tones on weak beats if you want. They just are more effective on a strong beat rather than a weak beat. Let's see. Bobby Booth says, this is still over my head, but it sounds good. If it sounds good, it is good. All right. Just kind of try, Bobby, in your head to keep the idea of when we're looking at notation anyway. I mean, when we're not looking at notation, you're thinking of other abstract constructs. When we're looking at notation, try and think of this as a street. These these 4 spaces and 5 lines. Think of it as a street. And basically, you're just going up and knocking on different people's doors and meeting different people is what you're doing. And then, to get from one person's house to the next, with the diatonic passing notes, we're hopping over the fence into the back garden and going through their back door. Okay? And then, the more chromatic passing notes, that's like, climbing out of a window, going up on the roof, and then, sliding down one side of the roof onto the roof of the next house, and then you climb through the window and you're in the next house. So a little bit of a more colorful, more adventurous kind of imaginative thought there. Let's see, in Notion, does it support writing out guitar tabs? Yes, it does. Notion absolutely definitely does do guitar tab. Let me show you very quickly. So if I click on this plus sign here, and Untitled 21 will do for now. And if I go acoustic guitar, there are other guitars. If I click on this guy over here, this shows you how many different guitars there are. So there's electric guitar, there's a 7-string, there's an electric bass, 5-string electric bass, 6-string electric bass, upright, mandolin, banjo, ukulele, guitar. No, I'm kidding. I don't mind banjo. My dad plays banjo. He's amazing. It's just maybe not necessarily my favorite sound for a stringed instrument, but regardless. So let's try with an electric guitar. And I did not want to add 2 guitars, so let's hide the acoustic guitar. There we go. And so let me just zoom in. So if I do Control and plus, or Command and plus, that zooms the score in so we can see what we're doing. You can enter notation or you can enter tab here. So I can go and grab this here, and you'll see it defaults to a 0, so an open string. But what I can do is I can select this note here, and I can change that. Let's say 5, not 56, 5. And you'll notice that now we've got its compatriot on the staff. Okay? So let's go and grab another 8th note. That note's selected, that's why I won't do that. And let's make that a 7. Hit enter. And we'll change this one to, I don't know, let's go for a 9. And then we'll go down here on this string, we'll go 5. And then we'll go up here and we'll go 7. And I have no idea how playable this is going to be. And then on this one we'll go 9. And let's go up a bit. So let's go on this one, we'll go 12. And then up here, we'll go 15. And then we'll select away and we'll play this horrible thing. There you go. Have fun, guitar players, trying to play that. So yes, it does. It does support tab. Now the cool thing is I can write in here something complex, like a complex chord voicing, like let's say G13. So I can put an E at the top here, and then a B, and then no. Oh, come on. I think I need to zoom in a little bit more. You're not going to let me do this, are you? No, that's not what I want. There we go. All right, I'll leave it like that. So we've got F, G, B, and E. So that's kind of a 13th chord. With a decently simple voicing for it there. Let's see. Another silly question. Guitar banjo tuning's an option. Of course. If banjo is available, then yes. Tunings are definitely an option. Also, guitar tunings are also an option. So if you want to change the tuning, we go on here, and we see that the standard tuning is this here, E, A, D, G, B. Let's say we want to change that. We want to do drop D. We can do that by changing that to a D. There we go. We're in drop D. Now I just do OK. Simple as that. So yes, if banjo is available as an instrument, then you know we can just add. Let's just do that. Let's go and add a banjo just for funsies. We've added a banjo. Let's go back to our score setup. Let's go to banjo. There's your tunings right there. This is a standard 5-string banjo, but we can go for a 4. There's other guitar tunings there as well. There's 7-string, open D, drop D. There's baritone ukulele. There's low G ukulele standard, mountain tuning, 4-string, 5-string banjo, 6-string bass. There's all of these different tuning presets. Let's stick with the 5-string, and then let's say we do drop F. Never seen that ever done in my life on a banjo, but you never know. Now notice what happens here. The tab type now says custom. So in our banjo, we've now got a custom tuning, and we've got custom setup as well. So you can set this up however you want. You can put in whatever guitar tunings you want for your strings, and then all of this will respond accordingly. All right, but some good questions there on Notion. So yeah, tab is cool. Guitar tunings, all cool. If you're interested in Notion, this is Notion Mobile, and I definitely recommend that you go get this. You can get this from the Microsoft Store. You can get this from the Mac App Store. You can get this from the iOS App Store. You can get this from Amazon if you've got a Fire HD device. On Android, you can get it from Google Play. On a Samsung device, you can get it from the Samsung Store as well. So there's 6 places that you can get Notion Mobile from. Notion Mobile is free, but there is an in-app purchase for the feature bundle, which contains things like the handwriting tool, which is great if you've got an iPad and an Apple Pencil, which is what I've got. Or It's also got layout handles, which was just added today because we are. This is the brand newly released Notion 3.3. So that includes layout handles, which is added to the feature bundle. So if you don't have the feature bundle, you don't have the layout handles. But if you do, then it's added for free if you've already purchased the feature bundle. Plus, you get the full library of expansion sounds as well, and there's loads of other stuff as well. Notion Mobile is very, very cool. It's cross-platform, as I said, and it's got features in it that Notion 6 does not have. So, well worth checking out. All right, so if you're into notation, this is cool. Can a real guitar do those close voicings? Probably. Go ask any guitar player that's played with Steely Dan or with the Eagles about close voicing, because they use a lot of close voicing, especially Steely Dan. So if you've ever listened to a song like Kid Charlemagne or Asia, then or I Got the News, for example, lots of cluster voicings for guitars there. Dean Parks would be one. Steve Lukather would be. He has played with Steely Dan, believe it or not. He's on a record. John Harrington is their current guitar player. He's been with Steely Dan since I think about 2000. So yeah, the last 24 years. So yeah, he's done some videos actually on his YouTube channel, talking about Steely Dan chord voicing. So if that's kind of your thing that you want to learn about, then you can go and check that out. All right, so Billy Morgan has launched a after show Zoom, and Mike says he can host it, which is cool. Yeah, Tony says I haven't played for Steely Dan, but I answered the question for Ronald. Yeah, if you are familiar with jazz, and jazz chords and jazz harmony for guitar, there are plenty of tutorials for that kind of advanced chords for guitar that you can check out. Definitely. I'm not a guitar player. I do play weird chords on guitar. I learned some of Alan Holdsworth's guitar voicings, which if you're into weird chords, those are definitely weird chords. But I can't really play regular chords like C and G and E minor, stuff like that. So that's about the extent of my guitar playing. All right, so we are out of time for today. Thank you very much for your attention, and I hope that you found that useful, going over a little bit of melody and passing notes and stuff like that, and we can move on to dealing with a little bit more chromaticism and ways in which you can spice up your melody. We've already kind of looked at adding one very simple layer of spice with diatonic passing notes. Well, and we did a little bit on chromatics as well, but we can delve into that a little bit more so we can make something sound. We can go from very slightly spicy to incredibly spicy, getting into kind of the world of atonal and non-tonal music, that kind of stuff. All right, I will see you all on Sunday for Sunday Night Live. Thanks very much for coming. Don't forget to hit that like button if you haven't done so already, and don't forget to subscribe if you have not subscribed. I would appreciate it a lot. We had 20 people at our peak. We have 21 likes. I would suggest that that is a roaring success of a show, and I will see you on Sunday for Sunday Night Live. Thanks a lot, everybody, for coming. You guys rock immensely, and I'll see you on Sunday. Good night, folks.